We're live, sure.
Are we good to go, sir? Yes, sir. All right. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Providence School Board. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is the roll call. Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Yes, sir. President Thomas,
Present.
Vice President Garcia,
Present.
Secretary Dr. Santel,
Present.
Mr. Stevens,
Present.
Mr. Nunez,
Present.
Mr. Ibiemi,
Present.
Mr. Escobar, Mr. Mohinabo.
Present.
For the call, Mr. Santel.
You
do?
I do. Most present, sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's comments.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I get into some updates on the Providence schools, I want to take a moment to say congratulations and thank you to some of our educators. Last week, several school board members and myself were honoring at being part of the celebration of our recent PPSD retirees. These are educators who served our students for decades and changed, if not hundreds, thousands of students' lives for the better. So for those educators we celebrated last week, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the years of service to our students. I promise you that we will continue to rebuild Providence schools with the same energy and devotion you brought into your classrooms every day. I also want to say thank you to our new attendance teams, who once again was out in the community today talking with students and parents. We had about 15 volunteers who helped spread the word about our CTE programs and how they can open up new paths for success for our students. We have good attendance and the importance of good attendance, and they were out there with the boots, hit the ground, knocking doors and visiting homes and having conversations. So I want to say thank you to the new attendance team. And speaking about attendance, I know that it's an issue. I know that RIPTA bus services is an ongoing source of frustration. This is not only a frustration for ourselves at the PPSD, our parents, our community, and our students. This is unacceptable to our students, especially high school students and their families who actually use the services of RIPTA. If we would have known before the start of the school year that RIPTA will have these problems, believe me, we will have had a plan B in place. My team here at PPSD and the team at RIDE have been in constant contact with RIPTA since the start of the school year. And we will continue to provide support whenever we can. We are hopeful that RIPTA's planned service change on October 22nd will help resolve this issue. In the meantime, PPSD is aggressively looking for additional coverage for school routes currently covered by RIPTA. Students' attendance is critical for their success, which is why it's an important key and is a goal in our community turnaround action plan. We need consistent, reliable transportation to make sure our students are in school every day and are thriving. And lastly, on that note, how important it is for our students and teachers to have good attendance, I want to remind everyone to get their flu shots this year. We just had a flu shot clinic at JSEC, Juanita Sanchez, yesterday for all students, families, and community members. And we have 2 more upcoming the next couple of weeks at the Sesto Middle School and Nathaniel Green Middle School. So please get your flu shots and let's help keep our community healthy this winter. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Next on the agenda is an approval of the agenda as amended. There is not a proposal to present CTE presentation. There is a CTE presentation. So is there a motion to approve the amended agenda? Motion's been made by Mr. Escobar. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Yemi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda is public comment. Before we get into public comment, I do want to just remind those who are signed up this evening that public comment, the time limit for public comment is 3 minutes. And as a school board, we are here to listen to public comment from members of the community. This is not an opportunity for us to engage back and forth in dialogue with those who are signed up for public comment. But I do want to remind those who are here to make a public comment that the time limit for said comments is 3 minutes. Mr. Kushner, if you could call up our first individual tonight for public comment.
Yes, sir. The first person is Cynthia Jones. Cynthia Jones.
Doesn't appear as Ms. Jones is with us. Mr. Kushner, could you call our next individual for public
The
comment?
second person who called in was Ashley Kalis.
Actually cannot come tonight. Can I comment on her behalf for the campaign?
So if Ms. Kalis signed up for public comment, I would ask that Ms. Kalis provide the public comments. If you have something written that you want to submit on her behalf, you can certainly submit it to the clerk, and we will have it put into the record.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, really quick. Do we still have the sign-up sheet where members that are from the community can sign up to speak?
So the process, Mr. Stevens, for signing up for public comment is they need to go into the portal and sign up before the 4 p.m. deadline. If they sign up on the portal before 4 p.m., they are guaranteed to speak. But if you come in here and sign up afterwards, we are not going to allow you to speak for public comment. We have a process for community members to sign up for public comment in the student portal.
And when was that made clear?
That was made clear at the last school board meeting.
Okay. I watched it. I did not see that.
I referenced going forward that folks need to sign up through the portal.
So if community members don't have access to internet, they can't come here and sign up. They have to find a way to sign up online.
If they don't have access to an internet, I would suggest that they reach out to Mr. Kushner and we will make arrangements for that.
But how can they reach out if they don't have internet?
No, they can call. They can call Mr. Kushner. They can call
How?
Mr. Kushner.
Where's the access? How do they have access to get in touch with Mr. Christian?
They can contact the district and they can transfer them over to Mr. Kushner.
That's too much. That's too much, President Thomas. When members of the community comes here, they should be able to sign up and be able to speak. Whoever it may be should be able to come, sign up, and speak, and talk to the school board on what their issues may be.
Just as a matter of clarity, we're still in the rule for public comment. So if there's school board comments that follow the public comment portion of our agenda, I would suggest that we leave the commentary to that portion.
It wasn't a comment, it was a question.
We can certainly discuss the process more for community members, but as it stands now, and as it will be going forward, for those who want to sign up for public comment, they need to do so through the portal. We can certainly make accommodations for those who need so. So if you have
Thank you.
comments that you want to submit on behalf of Ms. Kalis, the clerk can take those and then put it to the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda will be school board comments. I'm going to read off our school board comments by echoing the superintendent's comments with regards to Richter. Frustrated, doesn't even begin to describe the situation. It's my understanding that the governor penned a letter to Richter board of directors sometime last week, and he referenced that Richter had informed him that their driver shortage would not impact our students. And that's where my frustration comes from. because this situation was preventable. What I think is important for the PPSD community to know is that the operation team here at the district has been working and meeting with RIPTA constantly to try to resolve the issue. Let's not get it confused. This is a solution that RIPTA needs to fund. They are paid an incredible amount of money to provide our students with transportation to school, particularly at a time when the district is prioritizing student attendance. I do hope that the plans that are being worked on now that will go into place October 22nd will be the magic bullet here. But frankly, I think the past several weeks have shown that we can't count on that. So I'm glad to hear that the PPSD team is working on some extra coverage routes for those students that have been impacted. It shouldn't be necessary, but unfortunately, it sounds like it might. On a more positive note, I do also want to congratulate our recent retirees. I had the opportunity to join my colleagues here at the board and the superintendent to celebrate the retirement of our educators. And as I was leaving the event, it was an opportunity for me to reflect on all the hard work that our educators do, not just in the classroom, but also on the community, as evidenced by the event held by teachers over the weekend, providing students with reading materials and such. So I do also want to congratulate them and wish them well on their retirement. October is Principal Appreciation Month. I also want to take a moment to thank our administrators here in the district. Certainly, being an administrator is a tough job, but it is rewarding as well. And I want our administrators to know that on behalf of the school board, we appreciate our administrators and those who support our administrators day in and day out, doing the good work that's needed to move our district forward. That will conclude my comments this evening, and I will open it up to my colleagues for additional comments. Dr. Santos, did you want to jump?
I did, on an unrelated subject, but related to what we just talked about a second ago. The school board bylaws, I believe, lay out in some detail the procedures for how public comment is supposed to work. So I don't have them in front of me, so I don't know what it says. I'm raising it, Mr. Stevens, because you obviously raised a legitimate question about making sure that we provide access to all members of the community, regardless of whatever media they can access. So what I think we should do as part of our prior to our January organizational meeting, we will hopefully be having a retreat. Prior to that, we'll have the policy committee meeting in December, where we can begin as a board to talk about ways in which we want to change our bylaws. We've had some of that conversation already, but not about this. So what I'd suggest, Mr. Stevens, is that make sure that, and I'm joining you in that, make sure that we have that conversation, right? What do we want our public comment rules to look like going forward? Because we can change that. That's in our power to change. It doesn't come from, to my knowledge, doesn't come from the state law or right. So that's a conversation we should have.
Thank you, Dr. Santel. Any additional comments from members of the board?
Absolutely, I appreciate that, Dr. Santel. I just want to raise a concern that community always don't, the community that we are currently in don't always have access, like I said, to internet. They don't have time to come and speak to Mr. Krishna. So whenever they come, it's very important, don't matter who it is, whenever they come, it's important that the school board listens. We are a public board. So that's where my concern lies. So thank you for that. That's something that we can definitely look into moving down the line. I also want to thank the superintendent in the district on the teacher appreciation that they had. I truly enjoyed myself. I truly did. So excited to be able to acknowledge all of the teachers that retired. A lot of them been here 20, 30, 40 years. So that does not go without recognition. And I truly, truly do appreciate all that our teachers do here in Providence schools. Because it's not an easy place to work, and everyone knows that. Although I love the my district and I love everyone in it, I think we need to discuss this confidential agreement. I think this is something that we can look into. You have to understand that each employee in Providence work for a public school system. So when you say people can't speak to the board or say they can't speak or keep confidential information that they may want to share, I just disagree. It's a public board. We are all here working for the public school system. So each and every administrator, staff member, teacher should be able to speak to their local board at any time they please. So I disagree with this confidential form. I hope no one signed it because it will be this means that they'll be having to change up their contract, and I don't think that that's needed. So I am fully against that, but I truly hope that we come up with a solution where the school board can work closely with the administrators just as well as teachers and staff. But that concludes my public comment on today. Back to you, President Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Any additional comments from members of the board? There being none, we will move on to our next agenda item.
Actually, tonight, I'm sorry, can I ask?
Sure.
I wanted to ask
I would
Charlie a
just-
question.
Go ahead.
So, with regard to the document that Mr. Stevens is discussing, on our agenda, we have executive session planned, and I know Gilman has to have very specific reasons for having executive session. I wanted to ask Mr. Ruggiero if we can discuss this issue in executive session tonight or not.
I don't think we can, Mr. Santino. I think if there was a consensus from the board, probably the appropriate time to discuss it would be now during school board comments. But generally speaking, I would say that the executive session placeholder is confined to whatever statutory basis we cited for that. And I haven't reviewed the discussion item and seen what the board's preference is relative to discussing NBA to determine whether or not it would qualify for discussion in executive session. It may not. So I think we could discuss and see if we can convene a meeting next time to discuss in an executive session if that's the board's preference.
I can't speak for the board, I can speak for myself, but I think, I'm pretty sure, my fellow board members would like to be able to have a conversation amongst ourselves and about this issue, because there's concern.
Let me research and see if there's an acceptable exception to provide for executive session to discuss the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Santel. And thank you, Mr. Ruggiero. Next on the agenda is school board committee updates. First up is policy committee, and I'll turn it over to the co-chairs, Dr. Santel and Mr. Stevens, for an update.
Oh, it's,
I mean, no, I'm
you
sorry.
trained for a-
No, I'm sorry.
for a
Mr. Escobar,
draft pick.
sorry.
Players
We can trade everyone.
Finance.
Update for the policy committee, yes. We actually just met right before the board meeting here. And we're working on a variety of different policies as well as planning for the year. We had some discussion about a revision to the physical restraint policy today, which we tabled for further discussion to our next meeting on November 2nd. We have a variety of policies that are sort of coming towards us over the next couple of meetings here, including several that pertain to the recent A-venture circumstances, as well as others that are that we as a board consider mission critical, including the code of conduct policy and the MTSS policy. We'll also do some of our own internal work with regard to our bylaws in the next couple of meetings as well. So the policy committee has a pretty full agenda with some pretty mission critical stuff coming up in the next few meetings. Those are of course public meetings, so the public is most welcome to attend.
Thank you, Dr. Santel. Anything else that you want to add, Mr. Escobar? Sounds good. Next, we'll go over to Finance Committee update. Dr. Ibiemi, I'm not sure if there's anything that you want to add. Maybe Mr. Stevens and Mr. Henry, when you were at the last finance committee meeting. So I'll turn it over to the three of you for any pertinent updates.
Mr. President, there was a meeting last week, not attended, but I was just in this and we were for contracts that's been presented for not that's on the agenda tonight.
Mr. Stevens, Mr. Mahingabu, General Murad, Benino, is there anything else that either you would like to add?
Yeah, no, the core contracts that were presented, were from the equity department, I believe, Ms. Sandy Stewart's department, feel comfortable with approving all four of them, bringing in community, and building community, really what the contracts are for.
Thank you. Mr. Mahingabu, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, we feel confident in approving all.
Thank you. Next is the Health and Wellness Committee update, and I will turn it over to Vice President Marcelo.
Good evening. The Health and Wellness Committee met on September 21st and will again on October 26th next week. Last month, we received a presentation on mental health provider allocations from Sandy Stewart's team. Thank you so much. The committee continues to have conversations around how to best collaborate outside our meeting time using Google products, rebuilding our committees as we've lost members due to the pandemic and various transitions, prioritization of work, including how to elevate district needs and provide support. Next week's agenda is not yet posted, but we will have a presentation on the health and wellness curriculum. Moving forward, presentation, topics, and conversations are generated by committee priorities, which we are aligning with TAP goals. If anyone is interested, the meeting minutes and presentation materials are typically available on the electronic school board for anyone who is interested. And that is it, unless I'm missing something from my colleague, Nigel. Am I missing anything? That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and I'm going to ask for an approval for items number 11 through 16. Is there a motion? Motion has been made by Mr. Escobar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mahingabu. All those in favor? Oh, it's Mr. Stevens. I'm sorry. Mr. Stevens' motion, Mr. Mahingabu second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is the review of homeschool candidates. I believe Ms. Stewart is going to be joining us for this. Ms. Stewart, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, back with the mic on. So we actually have no homeschool candidates, and I know we've been having quite a few of them throughout the meetings. This was actually an error. We just received some applications, so we're in the process of reviewing them. So we'll have some candidates to share with you in the November, forgetting the month, we're in November meeting. So we don't have any currently this to present, but we will for the November.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you.
All right. Next is our presentation this evening, and that is the CTE presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight.
Thank
Press the button.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. Just waiting for my slides to come up. I'm Brett Dickens. I'm the director of CTE for the Providence Public Schools. Next slide, please. Our focus, we have three focus areas in our department, career and technical education. First and foremost, is quality. And we measure quality by tracking student outcomes on a per student level. We look at the percentage of students that achieve our gold standards, which are standards that exceed the RIDE expectations for each program. Growth is very important, and you'll see our growth in a few slides. We have a 20% increase in the number of students enrolled in CTE this school year. We are looking for programs that are high wage, high growth, and we are looking for new programming to match the needs of the labor market, which, as you all know, is pretty on fire at this time. We also focus on work-based learning. We have students out on internships, we'll talk about that a little bit later, doing industry projects within their own classroom, doing service learning, and we also have several school-based enterprises, the cafe at PCTA, salon Saturdays, and other things. On the next slide, you'll see where we are. A lot of people think that only PCTA has CTE programs. That is our flagship school. It has 12 programs, but we also have a presence in 6 of the other 8 high schools in the district. So you can see on this slide, I have distinguished which programs have RIDE approval and which programs we operate as pathways. We operate our pathways in the same way that we operate our RIDE approved programs, same standards, same course sequencing, same requirements for our teachers and our students in those programs. We're very proud on this particular slide of the firefighter program that you've heard about at Central High School. So that's new for us this year. It started in July. On the next slide, you'll see the other 3 schools, JSEC, EQ, and Alvarez. We were approved by the CTE Board of Directors after a pretty extensive review process in June to open up 3 healthcare programs at Alvarez in CNA for nursing, EMT, emergency medical technician, and community healthcare worker, which is a new position that is taking hold in the healthcare community. On the next slide, you'll see just by the industry clusters how many programs we have in each cluster. So these are the federally defined industry clusters and the number of programs that we have in each one of those areas. On the next slide, I just want to review for you how accountability in CTE programming is measured by the Rhode Island Department of Education. In order for a student to be a CTE completer, they must complete 3 non-duplicative courses, and they must complete 80 hours in work-based learning. Those can be in service hours, school-based enterprise, internship, and in a few programs, there are state apprentice programs that they can complete those hours. And then the students must complete the board-approved credential bundle. So those are specific to each one of our 24 programs. So here's some data from the last 2 years. You can see on the left side of this slide, the enrollment in our district. And I have broken out, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, those students that are in programs that are considered RIDE approved, and those programs that are in, those students, that are in our pathway programs. And we have seen a 22% increase in our enrollment this fall. We have 1,600 students across the district in those 7 schools enrolled in a CTE program. On the right, you will see the students that completed the work-based learning experience, 51%. Graduates that completed the credential bundle, 32%, so we have some work to do there. But there have been some changes in the credentials, and our programs are adapting very well, so I expect that number to increase pretty dramatically this school year. The next slide, just want to elaborate on those healthcare programs at Alvarez. We chose pathways that represent the greatest need in the market. Every single Monday morning, I open up an employment email from Lifespan, and you can see the number of CNA positions that are open in this city. It's remarkable. So we cannot prepare students fast enough to meet the labor market needs. So that's an exciting pathway for us. The emergency medical tech pathway will prepare students to work in fire department or to go on to be a paramedic. Lots of different experiences that they can take with that credential. And community healthcare workers are becoming very important in terms of advocating for patients in the healthcare system and in various healthcare settings. The next slide, we started in July a very intensive firefighter program at Central High School in partnership with the Providence Fire Department and Junior Achievement. And these students, when they graduate in May, will have completed 450 hours of training in a program that mirrors the experience that they would have in the State Fire Academy. They will take Firefighter 1, which is they completed that in August, 150 hours. At the current time, they are in Firefighter 2, which is being taught by Lieutenant Ramos at Central High School during the school day. And in January, they will transition into an EMT course in partnership with CCRI. And they will go through that intensive training and take the physical and the written exam in May or June, depending on their birthday. And these students will have a position in the Providence Fire Department pending a physical and a psychological exam. So it's a really exciting initiative. The fire department is really thrilled. The 12 students represent the best of Central High, and they are really excited to enter into this career. The next slide, we are working with LIUNA, the laborers union, to offer an after-hours training program, workforce development program. This is not a traditional CTE initiative because these students in this program will not go through a 3-course sequence, but they are going to get 160 hours of training by our fantastic CTE instructors at PCTA, and spend 80 hours, half of their training, up at LIUNA's New England Center in Hopkinton, Mass. These are students that are coming from both A Venture and Central High School on Tuesday afternoons from 3:30 to 7:30, and then they will be traveling up to Hopkinton 10 days before May. They will, kind of like the fire department, they will be getting preferential interviews to enter LIUNA's apprenticeship program. They will also have opportunities in some of the auxiliary unions that LIUNA is associated with. So upon graduation, we hope that they will be transitioning to apprenticeship programs for LIUNA. We are actively recruiting the class of 2027. I gave you all a mug with the industry cluster nights that we are having over the next 3 weeks. We have a 5-point recruitment strategy. We are at every single middle school doing assemblies. We go whenever we're invited to a charter school night, anywhere we can present to 8th graders. That is obviously the most important part of our strategy, is to reach the students directly. We have district-wide events. We have a school choice fair. We have a parent night in January where families can come out before the deadline and ask us any questions that they might have. We have invited middle school personnel. We've invited the school counselors and the community specialists to each high school to tour. So we have a morning at each high school where they can see the different programs in our 7 schools. The new initiative that we've had one, we had an IT week, an IT night last week at EQ. Tomorrow night, we're having a construction industry evening at PCTA. And then next week we will be at Alvarez for healthcare, and the following week we will be at JSEC for biomedical. So these are evenings where we are asking 8th grade families to come so that we can really talk to parents about the opportunities in all of our schools and the industry. So tomorrow night we will have several unions in attendance, we will have several employers, and we will also have the MBE and the DEI from the state. So we have a lot of people coming to tell families about the opportunities in construction. And then we are working with the communications department to upgrade our website, use social media and all communications to make sure that families know about the opportunity to apply to CTE programs in January. So next slide, I just spoke about, those are our industry cluster nights. I just want to briefly, before I conclude, just share some of the outcomes. We had a summer program funded by ESSER. We had 121 students at PCTA and Central, including those students in the firefighter program. We had 13 students in our P-TECH IT program, and each one of those students earned 6 college course credits. And then we had 6 different programs running at PCTA with students from 8th grade all the way to 11th grade. And it was exciting to see those relationships building over the summer, especially with the 8th grade students before they started the program. We sent our students on multiple field trips. The students went to LIUNA's training facility. The New England Carpenters went up to Massachusetts as well to see that training facility. In addition, we had 30 students who completed 100-hour paid internships with outside companies during the summer. Last year, We really focused on paid internships. We had 3 different funding sources, and we were able to put, I believe it was 102 students out on 100-hour paid internships at $15 an hour. That was a tremendous learning experience for our students. The first pitch grant was funded by the Governor's Workforce Grant, and we had mostly our Teacher Academy students partner up with local elementary schools and do 100 hours of classroom service and tutoring with young people. And we had the One Providence grant coming from the city of Providence. We had 67 students that completed 100-hour placements matched to their field of study. That was our criteria. No student is going to be out during the school day unless they are in the field that they're studying. And we had 2 students paid by local construction firms to do their internships, and all of those students were honored in May. And last but not least, this is our team. We are growing quite a bit. We're excited that we have now 2 people focused exclusively on work-based learning and internships, and they are working with many, many employers in the community, and the employers are very excited to host our students. Eventually, we hope that all of our employers that can will be paying the students directly, and that will lessen our reliance on outside grants and funding. And then we have 3 people on our team that are dedicated to different industry clusters and supporting the teachers in those programs with their procurement, with their field trips, with their work-based learning experiences within the classroom, serving as liaisons to the state committees for each one of those clusters. So we're excited about the work that we're doing. We have a fantastic team. That's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Ms. Dickens, thank you for the very extensive overview. I have some questions, but I'll open it up to my colleagues to ask questions for them. Mr. Escobar.
Thank you for having time to present to us. I think I have a lot more questions that are probably better offline in terms of understanding how Providence can expand into the CTE programming. But one of the questions I would have is there's a lot of different industries I think we could expand in Providence. I've been one that's focusing. I don't know if we do our best to bring in all these corporate partners that want to see Providence succeed. How do we bring them into the classroom, offer internships, create a pipeline for potential employment opportunities or mentorship opportunities, right? For example, the financial sector, or organizations that exist here, or just what the jobs look in 2030, whether that's what's going on with metaverse or the social media communication has become just its own industry in itself that I think gets ignored in the current K-12 education system. So I guess my meta question would be where do you think if you had a magic wand, right, and you had funds and support, where would you want to see CTE in Providence expand in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we're in the right industry clusters. With regards to social media, we have, I would say, the best graphics department in the state, and we do have a lot of students that are learning video production and web design, and the companies have been chasing them for internships. So I think that's an area that we are covering quite well. I think healthcare, it's in its infancy. We only have freshmen in that program right now. So, we have to move quickly to get students to that employable state, and they won't be graduating for 3 years. So in 2030, I think the industry that we need to take a look at is manufacturing. And Polaris MEP is building a training center here in Providence. So we're speaking to them about maybe not necessarily building our own manufacturing lab, but partnering and utilizing their space. And sending kids maybe partial day over there. And I think that's, given the economy of Rhode Island, there's 1,600 manufacturing companies in this state. And we don't have a manufacturing program. So we are talking to CCRI. We're involved with their workforce development and their academic side and Polaris MEP about how we can look at our 2 pre-engineering academies and create offshoots of those programs to put students into manufacturing. So I think manufacturing and healthcare And then the obvious theme of tomorrow night is the infrastructure bill has created 800,000 jobs in construction over the next decade. Those jobs aren't going anywhere, and they're very local. And I think in terms of partnerships, I'm very, very happy with the receptivity of the unions to work with our students in a lot of different ways and to create that pipeline, because they know they have to expand their pipeline to meet that demand for construction.
And thank for that. And to follow up on just placement of CTE programs in specific schools. So, classical is what we cheerlead, what we promote, what we brag about, but it doesn't seem like there's a CTE program in classical. Is not.
Yeah, and I think there's probably two answers to that every high school should have opportunities for students in CTE. But we're not gonna be able to have every industry cluster at every high school. And so we're asking eighth graders to make pretty big choices. We only have one of each program. We only have one visual arts, we only have one biomedical. And so that's why I think this eighth grade education, especially if the family's about these opportunities and where they leave. But, we're asking 14-year-olds to really think about their future. So that's one answer, is to make sure that all of our high schools have at least one CTE option. The other option is to think more broadly about how schools that are in proximity can, offer opportunities to students that don't necessarily go to that school. And that's obviously complicated with scheduling and those kinds of things, but that may be an opportunity to offer to students, maybe as juniors, that they can go to another school if schedules allow to do those programs. That's several years down the road, but I think that may be another way to make sure that all students have all opportunities.
Yeah, because I get concerned about, if classical doesn't have a CTE program, is that strategic in aspect of, classical is for students that it's college access, we want you to go to college. Whereas CTE program provide another schools where, if you don't necessarily go into college, here's other potential opportunities we can expose you to. So, there's a whole equity problem that I've always had when it comes to high schools with classical compared to everyone else. And it seems like with CTE, that's another example of that. Like classical isn't in CTE because all those students, we just want them to go to college, and they shouldn't be bothered by potential programs elsewhere.
I think for me, it is never an issue of college or career. It's a yes and. Like every
absolutely.
Single one of our 24 programs, we have a booklet that's posted on our website. We have a chart at the bottom, and it says, if you're in this pathway, here's the direct to work pathway, here's the 2-year degree, and here's the 4-year degree. And I don't feel that we should be asked, we should treat that as binary. You don't necessarily go to college or not go to college. A lot of the unions, for example, will pay for students to do their schooling at night. A lot of the manufacturing firms are doing that as well. They are paying for the students to get their advanced engineering degree at night, but work during the day. And, people find their path in different ways. And I think it's a good point about classical. You might go in thinking, I want to go to a 4-year college, and you may want to go on a path that you're doing these things at night and teaching, come and work as a TA in the Providence Public Schools and get your BA, but maybe you get it over 5 or 6 years instead of, the traditional 4. So I think that we have to reinforce that message. We almost have to change the narrative with a lot of our families that it is not college or not. It's a yes and. You can do both. You just have to find the way that you want to enter the workforce and the way that you want to further your education. No one should stop learning. We took students to a field trip 2 years ago from automotive down to National Guard, and there was a 24, 25-year-old young man there, and he was just talking to the students. We didn't tell him what to say. He said, I'm a lifelong learner. I may not have gone to college, but I am constantly doing a training class to get this certification, and I need to work on this machine, and I'm getting that certification. It was a great message. It wasn't about college or career. And I think that, that's one of the opportunities we have with these evening events, is to talk to families about that you are not making a choice between college and career. But I agree with you. We want to make sure that there is equity in access throughout the district. At Mount Pleasant and Hope, we only have a small percentage of students that are in CTE programs. How can we expand our offering to some of the larger high schools so that all students have access? It's hard because you can't offer every program or every cluster at every building.
With the my last question with the teacher academy, just because we're facing associate teachers, but I mean, that's across the country, and that's, you know, the way we pay teachers, that's a long-term problem for this country. Can you talk more about the current status of the Teacher Academy in Mount Pleasant, and could there be opportunities to offer that more broadly within our high schools?
We do have pathways at JSEC, and we do have a pathway at Alvarez for aspiring
Okay.
teachers. We work with Educator Rising and other organizations to promote teaching. We had a fantastic breakfast this summer where our HR department spoke to our graduates and offered that TA to BA option and showed them that we have multiple higher education partners that are willing to create flexible pathways. So, you know, come and work with us and get your teaching degree as you work. So I think that's going very well. We are training for early education and preschool, and really thinking about how can we work on training secondary teachers, because that's where the greatest need is in the STEM fields. So how do we look at, for example, in our biomedical program at JSEC, how do we get those students that have really good science knowledge who might not want to go into the lab work or, you know, maybe into healthcare, how do we get them to come back and to be our CTE teachers? So we're in constant contact. I'm the co-chair of the Education Advisory for the state, paired up with the Dean of Rhode Island College. So we're in constant contact with different organizations to figure out pathways. I think of all of our CTE programs, that is the one that kids are more likely to enter into at like junior or senior year, not necessarily in ninth grade. We don't see a lot of eighth grade interest in being a teacher. So we have to think about, you know, what are the on-ramps and what are the exit ramps for our programs, not just you got to get into ninth grade or that's it. And that's why I'm really excited about the evening program. You know, like, how do we capture and meet kids where they are and as they, you know, think more about their career.
Yeah, and the last question. I think we're talking, being fortunate to talk to a bunch of high school students for now, that's a year and a half in different varieties. I get a lot of, how do I start my own business? I'd love to learn how to, you know, flip houses, learn how to, you know, own multiple properties. I think both of those aspects could be pretty simple to bring to the classroom, to bring local entrepreneurs, to bring people that have learned how to be successful in real estate. But just on a personal experience, I get those two aspects. It's like, yo, how do I do that? So I just want.
And we've been brainstorming, you know, Corey McCarthy, who's the innovation director, is talking, executive director of innovation, is talking about more business pathways, because the only business program we have right now is tied to the cosmetology program at PCTA. But there are tremendous opportunities to offer programs in entrepreneurship, and there are a lot of organizations that support that, and they have competitive events for students to write business plans. So I think that's definitely coming in the next couple of years, because, you know, the growth of small business, you know, can't be ignored, and people want to be entrepreneurs, and we should be encouraging that. So we're doing that within the cosmetology program. They're all getting accounting and finance and business management, so that if they did want to open their own salon, you know, they would have that experience, but that is not reaching students that don't have the interest in cosmetology. So we recognize that, that we need to do more there.
Sounds good.
Some
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Dr. Ughelli.
Thank you so much. This is very, very impressive. Just learning that the CT program is not only at PCTA, because I was considering that for one of my young adults, and I'm like, oh, you can only go to PCTA. Now that I know it covers 7. So this is very interesting to know, and this is a very, very good program. I have the questions, I have some questions and I have some suggestions. And one of them was mentioned by Mr. Escobar in terms of if somebody's in Central, and Central offers the what is it called, the firefighter program. And there's another kid in Hope High School who would like to have that, but because it's not offered in his school, he's not able to do it. I think the district should work more in terms of trying to get these make schedules that people can always go, or students can always go. Since you can't offer all the 24 programs in each of the schools, I think there should be an opportunity for whoever wants to cross in just schedule. And I think the district, this is very important because it means that if I'm at home and I want to take the firefighter program, but it's not offered in my school, that means the end of the road for me. That means I have to look for outside. So I think in working closely with this district, and I hope the superintendent is hearing this, and I think this is very important. It will go a long way in making sure that we ensure that equity that we're trying to say, so that people don't feel left out because they're not able to do it. That is the first one of the comments. And I want also to talk about, I see the those proposals of recruiting. Have we ever considered community outreach, where you go into the community? Most of the programs that are stated here are fairs, and I think they're all around the school environment. I think that as a school board member, I'm willing to work with you in terms to do community outreach in churches, in organizations, where you can catch them. We've said, Mr. Stevens says earlier on, that not everybody have access to the internet. Not everybody can get out and come to the meetings. Like we have meetings right now, it's only those who are affected that comes. So if we're able to partner with the real community and talk to them, make this information as beautiful as it is, not for everybody. Not everybody has this knowledge that they can do this. So the school board will be willing to work with you to go into down into the community and tell people this is programs, because at the end of the day, this is for the progress of our students, and that's why we're here. So we should be able to do that and help out. So I think you should count the school board in terms of reaching out to the community. There's a lot we can get from the community, but if we limit it to the school environment and stuff like that, I think the other question.
That's a great point. We would love to work with you on.
And in addition to that, if we can also have the alumni of these programs to be mentors to the intending attendees or like students, they will be able to tell, just like you explained that somebody, a 25-year-old says he didn't go to much school, but he's retraining and retraining and do that. That's very, very, encouraging. So if we have people who have graduated from this system come back and tell the people, that, you know what, these are the things, this is how I did it, and this is how I'm able to get it, I think it will go a long way in getting more recruitment in terms of that. My last question. RIDE programs and CTE pathways. What is the difference between the two?
So a RIDE program has gone through an approval process with the state, and it has to go through the CTE Board of Directors, which is appointed by the governor. So the programs that are RIDE approved on the first couple slides have gone through that process. There's quite an extensive review of your curriculum, your staff, your programs, your credentials. And other programs we have not put through for a couple reasons. Sometimes it's because we have another program in the district, and we know that RIDE is not going to approve two pre-engineering programs in the district, so we operate one as a pathway. The only difference technically is if a student from outside the district wants to go to one of those programs and we collect tuition from that district, we can't do it if it's not a RIDE approved program. So that hasn't been a significant issue for us, at this point. But as these programs have become more desirable, it may serve us well to put more programs through. RIDE also has to manage, the number of programs that we can support, because all of our programs are supported with Perkins dollars. And the Perkins dollars are on a funding formula that is tied to the number of students, but not the number of CTE students. So we have a limited pot of funds to spread out. So, we have to balance that, how well can we fund the programs that we have versus adding new programs.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this gift.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Additional comments from school board members?
Yeah, I first would like to acknowledge Ms. Brett Dickens. I've been a fan of you since you first came into the district and the work that you was doing and the work that you're continuously doing. But not only that, day in and day out, I see something new, something different. I apologize. I was supposed to show up to the firefighter. What would you
That
call
was
it?
quite a day.
I know, I'm
There'll be
upset.
another opportunity. That
I
was
know.
Quite a day.
In the summertime, I wasn't able to. But I do appreciate the work. I appreciate the gift. But just like the Mr. Ibiemi and Mr. Escobar talked about their interest in wanting to sort of work with you, this shows the reason why we really need a CTE committee, which I was told that we do not have. But I think that that's something that the school board should definitely reconsider, because this is a lot of great work. Not every young adult is not only ready, they just probably don't want to go to college after. So having this in place, definitely my background and what I go through. I graduated Providence schools. Not only did I graduate Providence schools, right after I went to Europe, Rhode Island, which is sort of similar to this kind of work that is being done. It's focused on career pathways. Now, a couple years later, now I'm going to college. So right off the back, a lot of students aren't always ready to go directly to college. So programs like this is important. And this is the reason why, me as a board member, this is important that we sort of push out a committee so we can bring all of our ideas together to work with Ms. Brett. This isn't about Tyrell. This is about the students. So we need to reconsider. I don't need to be the chair of no committee. I just want to serve and sit on a committee and try to help you guys out. So I really acknowledge the work that you're doing. This kind of stuff, small wins, and it boosts morale in the district. And I would tweet all day about this. So please, 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 let's reconsider that. I'll be sending out an email to reconsider it. But I want to thank you and thank you for the work that you're doing, and we will connect, okay?
Thank you.
Additional comments from school board members?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Mr. Nunes, please.
I wanted to thank you for an awesome presentation. This is something that I like to preach about, because we're in a world where a lot of industries are hands-on, and especially with the younger society, they're always attached to their phones, or they're always playing with something. And seeing all of these programs not only be at PCCA but expanded throughout the district of Providence is very, very nice to see. One of them that stood out to me was the firefighter program. Seeing that launch during the summer, I was a very huge fan of it. I'm actually a little bit jealous because I'm actually in the process of applying to the academy, which I already did. So shout out to the students who have that leg up. It's a great program. I just had two questions. The first question is, how early do we present these opportunities to PPSD students? And the second question is, in terms, I know students, I'm not sure if the process has changed, but they're able to select their school. In terms of selecting their school for that particular program, are the spots limited? And if the student doesn't get picked to go to that school, but they really wanted to get into the program, what are their options in terms of being able to attend that school through that program?
Great questions. I could answer that in a half an hour, but I'll make it quick. We were able, with the support of central office, to get another month of extension on the application deadline. So last couple of years, our deadline was in December, which felt really early. This year, our deadline is at the end of January. So we're excited to have more time. We have been to most of the middle schools to do assemblies. We've been to some of the charter and parochial schools at night to attend their 8th grade fairs. This series that we're doing in October, is more education. And then we have the school-wide choice fair and a parent night in January. So we have 4 or 5 months. So we recognize students just got into 8th grade and we're already asking them. We did some, thanks to Mr. Boyd's support, we did some 7th grade trips in the spring. So those students that are now 8th graders had an opportunity to come to PCTA, and they all had hands-on interactive activities during the month of June. So that was wonderful, and we'll do that again. So we can't get enough contact with students. I mean, that's the reality. But I am happy that they are not making those choices before the holidays, that they have the month of January to kind of come back and take a breath. And we don't even open the application until January. I don't want kids to just, I want to apply here and put it in. I want them to really be thoughtful and work with their school counselors and their community specialists to make that decision. The second part of your question is, there are many programs that have extensive waiting lists. So we have a process that they go through. The instructors interview the students if the demand exceeds the capacity of the program, and that's a huge part. We're not interested in scoring essays on grammar and structure, but we are interested through an essay and through an interview, which is half of the points, in hearing the students' passion and their connection to that particular industry. Then there's a lottery, there's a weighted lottery for the spots, and then we maintain a wait list. We're still pulling students off the wait list at this time, as soon as a spot opens up. So it is painful because we turn away 300 students from PCTA every year. We just simply don't have enough seats there. But we inform students who do not get into their first choice about some of the other options in the district. They do not lose their spot on that first choice waiting list if they decide to go somewhere else. So as soon as a spot opens up, we're calling them, and that's hard. It's hard to ask a student in the middle of October, do you want to leave the school that you've made some new friends, you're comfortable, but we are going to let you know that a spot opened up in Welding and it is available to you. So we do our best, but we will never be able to meet the demand for certain programs in the district.
I'm sorry, I have another question. I was just reviewing it. In terms of, it was the CT number is 22% enrollment growth. That slide. That's just for PPSD, correct?
That is, yeah.
That's just for PPSD. And then to the left, that's for the overall Rhode Island, correct? The numbers?
No, that,
is that the total amount for 2 years, or is that just?
if we can go
Which
to
one
that
is it?
slide. So
Yeah.
in the left column, the 1307 is how many students were coded as CTE in Providence last school year. And then now we have 1,601. The top two, I know it's a little confusing, we broke out those students that are in programs that are RIDE approved, and then we added in the kids that are in the pathway to get to that total. So we've seen growth in both categories, in both RIDE approved programs and non-RIDE approved programs.
So the 137 and the 87 is the growth in terms of last year, correct?
Correct. Oh, sorry, on the right,
Yeah, they're right.
those are the graduates from just this past year that did the work-based learning, that met the state requirement for 80 hours of work-based learning. So 137 of just the graduates. So I'm just looking at the senior class now. How many students finished that criteria for graduation? And that's pretty impressive considering that we lost a year and we couldn't send a lot of kids out, during the pandemic because a lot of employers wouldn't let them. And then on the right are the percentage of students that completed a credentials bundle that is required by the state.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that.
What's that, Mr. Lewis? Any additional questions from board members?
Just one quick clarifying one, I think you've already answered it, but I think we can all agree that we want to see not just more BPSD students have the opportunity to do this, but the percentage of students who want the percentage to go up, right? And so I guess I'm just trying to understand sort of the pipeline and where the kind of choke points are. It sounds like when it comes to students, we have more demand than we have the capacity to meet it. And at the other end of the pipeline, we're good on demand there as well from employers and capacity as well, or is that a?
For sure. I mean, I think that's why, I think back to Mr. Escobar's question, we have to make sure that we are choosing the industries where there is high wage and high growth, and like lots of people want to be in a particular field, but if we're not seeing that growth, we're looking at those labor statistics, particularly Department of Labor of Rhode Island. So where is the growth in Rhode Island over the next 10 years? And so, like everything else, there's that balance of passions that students have, but, realistic job opportunities for them. And, that's where we need industry to help us with that. We want to make sure that we're constantly looking 10 years ahead, in IT and in construction and healthcare. Like, where are those jobs going to be 10 years out?
So to keep that pipeline sort of open and directed in the right ways, it sounds like there's kind of two things we need to do. We need to expand our own capacity within the district and interact with more employers as best we can. Also, the reason I'm asking this question is, how can the school board help you to get to where you want to be with this program in the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, one of them is we have lots of individuals on this board who know people in the community and the business community and can connect to, but it sounds like there's also a resource issue, right? So if we want to advocate with the state legislature, RIDE, the city council for certain kinds of funding, These are programs that are under demand. They're in demand by students, in demand by the business community, good for the overall economy of the state. But we're stuck in the middle because we don't have the capacity to provide what we need to provide. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, I mean, the funding has been very good over the last few years, because of, we've had some ESSER funds, and because of that first year of the pandemic, we didn't spend as much on supplies and materials, so we've had some carryover funds, and we've been able to invest in some new areas. But we want to, in automotive, we want to explore the hybrid industry and electric cars, and that's going to require a lot of new equipment and supplies. And, we want to make sure that we're providing, the right training to our students. I think another place that I would love support is if we had a higher ed partner that could help us with the alumni piece, that you mentioned, and Mr. Nunez or Mr. Abiemi, like how can we create a database? How can we track our alum? I think that could be a great graduate or undergraduate project. It's labor intensive, schools that do that well, they have incredible results, by being able to create those pathways. Last year at PCTA, we had a young man, and he was 23 or 24, he was a graduate of PCTA. He came back with his employer, which was electric boat, and you should have seen the kids swarm around him to ask him questions about his experience as a welder at electric boat. We need more of that. And so I think, in the the city as rich as we're in with higher education, I think having some of those partnerships that could help us really on a per student and a per alumni basis, build that pipeline out, because I think that's what we need. And we need those employers to come and speak to our students. We're not losing kids to an industry just because they're not interested. Sometimes they're going to a 4-year college, and that's wonderful. They might have done 4 years of carpentry and they want to go to a 4-year college, great. But we really should be tracking who's going into this union and how do we get those mentors to come back and start working with our kids in sophomore year and build those relationships. So I think that's a place where our team does need help, is on the alumni tracking and the alumni development. As I said, it is a very if you're going to do it well, it's a very labor intensive process.
So, one last thing, just to speak to Mr. Stevens' comment before. I don't think that we've decided as a board yet about not having a CTE committee. It's in. I don't want to be the bylaws guy, but it'll be the bylaws guy. It's in there in our bylaws as one of our committees. So we have a decision to make. We do get this one window at our organizational meeting in early next year to propose changes to our bylaws. It could be removing the CTE committee, which I would agree with you is not necessarily a good idea, but we're going to have a conversation about what that can look like. It could look like the Health and Wellness Committee, which involves a broader group of community folks. It doesn't require a board on the board members. Anyway, a conversation for another time, but one we can have pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll connect with you after, Mark. One last thing, then I'll let you go, President Thomas. I know I'm looking at your team and I see the amount of work that's being done. So I know that the school board definitely, not saying we would, but it'll be in our best interest to make sure we try to advocate best way as possible for you, making sure you probably get some more staff, not trying to put you in an uncomfortable situation. And also the amount of work that I'm seeing that's done, even ED, I think that needs to be a part of your title, ED, Executive Director. So that's just something I'm just throwing out there in my advisory capacity. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Are there any additional comments from school board members? Ms. Dickens, I just had a couple of questions. If we could briefly, if we could go to slide 8, the healthcare pathways and Alvarez. And I'm looking at the third bullet, community healthcare workers. I'm delighted to see that the district is taking is providing students with an opportunity to become community health workers. A part of my day job is to help individuals who are interested in becoming certified community health workers. This certification this is a workforce that's beginning to blossom here in Rhode Island. The Department of Health has put a ton of money behind community health workers and helping folks transition to become certified community health workers, going back into the community and helping folks address social determinants of health needs. So I'm delighted to see this here, and I'm curious to know if the district is connected with the Community Health Worker Association of Rhode Island. They're located at Rhode Island College.
Yes.
You are connected, okay, because they would be a really good resource for our students to be able to really get that hands-on knowledge in terms of what community health workers do. And, I don't see why we couldn't have that, the opportunity to have them certified as community health workers. So when they go into the workforce, they have that certification, particularly if they're already engaged with Charter, who does a lot of the necessary training. But we can talk more about it, Ms. Stewart and
We actually
Ms.
just
Dickens,
proposed,
and find out how we can get our students certified. So when they leave, they have that certification, because it takes, on average, a person about 2 years to get the certification. But if our students are already doing the work now, they may already be checking off the boxes needed to become certified community health workers, which certainly having that going into the workforce can be impactful. So I can.
Donna O'Connor is chairing the advisory board for that program, and
Perfect.
so she would welcome a connection and get someone on the board. So our intent for this particular program is that for the first 2 years, so we have ninth graders in the healthcare pathway at Alvarez, they will stay together and they will get the core content, anatomy, physiology, medical terminology, lots and lots of biology, right? And then at the end of their sophomore year, they will choose one of these 3 pathways, and that's where, so that will be the fall of '24. And that's where we really need those partnerships, because those students that choose that particular pathway will have now 2 years to work towards their certification, and we hope that they will have it if they're 18 before they graduate.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy
We'd love to
to.
have your help.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than happy to sit with you and look at the application process and make sure that whatever pathway students choose, the end result will be that they're able to obtain their certification to be certified community health workers. There's no exam or anything needed. It's just you need to meet the criteria. It sounds like students are already doing so in the CTE program, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
My other question for you is, I joined the school board for a number of reasons. One of them is to address the social and emotional concerns of students. And as you know, social and emotional support in our schools has been an area where we continue to work towards providing more mental health support in our schools. I was curious if we begin to talk about that pathway where students who are interested in entering into the social service field can begin doing that work here, go to one of our various colleges, either Rick URI or any other school that offers a counseling component for them to also expand into the social service field. Because I stay in contact with a number of the professors at Rhode Island College, and they want to see more diversity, particularly in the School of Social Work. And I feel like this could be an opportunity for us to begin to set up students who are interested in the mental health field to get them on that pathway there. So I'm just curious if that's something that the district has considered.
We did have a social work program at JSEC, which kind of morphed into the Teacher Academy because the teacher teaching it was, a classroom teacher and not a social worker. But there is a path through CCRI for students to go. So I see it as an expansion of Teacher Academy, that there's many jobs within the school system that we should be preparing our students for, occupational therapists, speech therapists, social workers. And so I think that needs to be kind of wrapped into Teacher Academy experience. I think it's a really critical area, and something that we should prepare students for.
Yeah, I would, and again, you and I can talk more offline on how, under that umbrella, where we could have that pipeline carved out directly for that mental health support, so that school social worker support. Because I can tell you now, at Rhode Island College at the School of Social Work, in their BSW program, they have a professor that was a longtime social worker here who is interested in developing this pipeline with the right wing of Dr. Mary Archer. So I think we have the connections on both ends, or we could bring that together and create that pipeline. My last question for you is with regards to the support or how we could build a pipeline for Providence public school students who are currently residing at the Rhode Island Training School. So I, from time to time, go to the training school and speak with the young adults that are there. A number of them are Providence Public School students. Now, we may have to talk more about, depending on what the student is to be released from the training school, what that next step looks like. But in listening to what CT is, I'm imagining that we could potentially build that pipeline for students who are re-entering the community from a place like the training school to provide them with this to come home to and begin to move forward. So I just want to throw that out there that was, in working there and going there and seeing what this program is. It sounds like it's something that we could potentially bring together. But certainly be open to sitting with you and others in the district more. I'm sure that we would probably deploy superintendent and folks from DCYF to talk about how we can make that happen. But it sounds like a really good alternative for students who are at the training school that are going to be released and give them something positive to come home to.
I mean, I think it's in the same vein as the Gen Con after hours program. That's the proof of concept. Talking to Mr. Paz about doing, and Ms. Borrego about doing something with the Newcomers Academy. So how do we find those non-traditional students or, that students that, again, don't enter in a ninth grade CTE program? How do we keep PCTA, other buildings open after hours to offer, for credit and workforce development training opportunities? So I think there would be RIDE-approved programs, CTE pathways, and then non-traditional workforce development pathways. And I think we need to think about all three of those areas because, again, it's the on-ramp, exit ramp strategy. We have to meet kids where they are.
Yeah, and you typically have transition plans for kids that are coming in.
Yeah.
And, CTE being at that table
Yeah.
to craft on that.
100%.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, very good. I once again want to thank you for taking the time to join us. This is wonderful and informative. Congratulations on all the work that you've done, and we look forward to hear from you again.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Rick.
All right, next on our agenda is the executive session, discussion of the findings of investigation conducted by Providence Public School District Department General Counsel into grading the order at certain recent graduates of Mount Pleasant High School by Adventure Academy for overage credit students. This requires, this is pursuant to Rhode General Law 42-46, 5A, 4, 8, and 89. This requires a roll call vote. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call this.
President Thomas.
Aye.
Vice President Garcia.
Aye.
Secretary Dr. Santel.
Aye.
Mr. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Nunes.
Aye.
Dr. Abiemi.
Aye.
Mr. Escobar.
Aye.
Mr. Mahengaba.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. We are in executive session.
Can I help collect some of the stuff?